AITA for getting closure after my girlfriend met up with her ex? My name is Eric. I am 30 years old, and this is the story of how I ended a nearly 3-year relationship with Nicole, who was 27 at the time. We were not a perfect couple, but we worked. We had our arguments, our differences, but also a routine that gave us stability. We had been living together for nearly a year in the house my parents owned in our suburban gated community. They were away at the time and had lent it to us. We shared expenses, decisions, comfortable silences, and future plans that, at least from my perspective, seemed solid. Nicole was not an impulsive person. She always weighed what she said and what she did. That is why, the night everything started, her way of speaking caught my attention. We were sitting on the couch after dinner. The television was on, but neither of us was really paying attention. She placed her phone on the table, face down, and stayed silent for a few seconds before speaking. Jason texted me. She did not say my ex. She did not make a dramatic pause. She did not try to justify it. She just dropped the name as if it were something inevitable. I asked her when it had happened. A few days ago, she answered. I did not like that anymore. And did you reply? Yes, a little. I did not raise my voice. I am not one to make a scene. I simply told her that I did not see any reason for her to keep talking to someone who was no longer part of her life, much less someone with whom things had ended badly. She nodded. You are right. I am going to block him. She took the phone in front of me, tapped the screen a couple of times, and showed it to me as proof. At that moment, I decided to trust her. That was my first mistake. In the following days, she started mentioning Jason casually. Not constantly, but enough for me to notice a pattern. At first, I thought she was processing things from the past. I did not give it too much importance until she started telling me more. That he had changed, that he had been in therapy for a while, that he wanted to apologize to her in person. I remember exactly how she said it, because it sounded too structured, as if she had already repeated it several times. I knew the story. Nicole had told me at the beginning of our relationship, not with morbid curiosity, but with clarity. Jason had been jealous, controlling, and aggressive. He checked her phone, decided who she could talk to, isolated her from her friends, and one night after drinking, he had become physical with her. There was a police report filed, and there were consequences. It was not an ambiguous story. That is why, when Nicole spoke of him as someone who had changed, something in me did not click. I told her that I did not think it was a good idea to see him, that she did not need that encounter to move forward, that forgiveness does not require physical presence. She listened, but she did not seem to accept it. I want to get closure, she would say. I need to see him to be sure. The word she repeated the most was heal. I did not forbid her anything. I have never believed in imposing decisions, but I was clear. It makes me uncomfortable, and I do not understand why now. She would reply that she did not want to live with doubts. And that was when everything began to change, because it was no longer about her past, but about something that was starting to interfere with our present. One day I asked her directly if she had blocked him. She stayed silent for a few seconds. No, I muted him. That answer was enough. I did not yell. I did not make a drama, but I felt something I had not felt before. Distance. We argued without making a scene, but with tension. She defended the idea of the meeting. I defended the boundary. The conversation was left unfinished. After that, the topic apparently disappeared. We went back to our routine, breakfasts together, normal conversations, shows at night. But there was something suspended in the air, like a decision that had already been made but was not yet spoken out loud. A few days passed like this. One night I decided to prepare something special. Nothing exaggerated, just a quiet dinner, a movie we had been meaning to watch, a moment together. I was in the kitchen when she appeared. I have to go. I looked up. What do you mean you have to go? I am sorry, but I need to do this. I did not need to ask. Even so, I did. To see who? Jason. There was a brief, very clear silence. I do not want to live with the doubt, she added. I placed the knife on the table. Doubt about what? It took her a few seconds to answer. Of whether I did the right thing in leaving him. And in that moment, everything clicked. It was not getting closure. It was not healing. It was reconsidering. I nodded. Okay. She was surprised. Really? Yes. Her expression changed. She relaxed. Thank you for understanding. I did not answer. She went to the bedroom. I heard her changing clothes, opening drawers, getting ready. When she came out, She was dressed in a different way, more intentional. She did not say when she would be back. She did not ask how I felt. She just left. The door closed, and I was left alone. I did not feel immediate anger. I felt clarity. For the first time, I did not try to justify anything. It was not confusion, it was a decision. And I could make one too. The house we lived in was in a gated community and belonged to my parents. They were not there. They had lent it to us. It was not a neutral space, and that mattered. I sat down and thought about everything. About what she had said, about what she had done, about what it meant, and I understood something simple. I was not going to wait to see what she decided. I picked up the phone and called my mother. I told her everything. She did not interrupt. She did not dramatize. When I finished, she only said, "Do not wait for someone to doubt you twice." That was enough. That same night, I started packing her things, clothes, shoes, personal items, without going through memories, without stopping, just doing it. The next day, she no longer had access to the house. I had changed the locks and made sure the community security knew she was not to be let in. When she called, I answered. "What did you do?" "The same thing you did," I replied. I made a decision. She tried to explain herself, to say that she had already gotten closure. It did not matter. "Me too," I told her. She got angry and said some hurtful things to try to provoke me. It did not work. She hung up. The following days were strangely calm. There was no drama, no regret, just silence, until one afternoon I saw her. She was with him, and in that moment, I confirmed that I had not made a mistake. I did not feel jealousy. I felt certainty. The story ended right there, not with yelling, not with revenge, but with a decision made in time. As the days passed, I understood something important. It is not about how much time you invest in someone. It is about when you decide to stop doing it. Because when someone doubts having chosen you, they have already chosen not to. I did not see or hear from her for nearly 2 weeks. Total silence. No messages, no calls, no indirect attempts. At first, it seemed strange to me, considering how she had reacted on the last day, but then I understood that it was not tranquility, it was distraction. She was busy with something else, and that, far from bothering me, completely erased any doubt that might have remained. My routine began to settle down little by little. I went back to waking up early without that heavy feeling in my chest. I started cooking alone, organizing the house at my own pace, occupying spaces we used to share without overthinking it. The funny thing was that I did not feel emptiness. I felt space, mental space, above all. I stopped checking my phone constantly. I stopped anticipating uncomfortable conversations. I stopped measuring my words to avoid arguments that deep down no longer made sense. One afternoon, while returning from work in my car, I decided to stop by a coffee shop near home. It was a place we used to go to together on weekends, but that day I did not think about it too much. I just walked in, ordered my usual. I sat down, and for the first time in a long while, I did not feel like something was missing. It was in that moment when I understood that the relationship had been over for a while. I just had not accepted it. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. But calm does not last long when there are people who do not know how to end things with dignity. 3 days later, my phone rang again. It was an unknown number. I answered. "Eric." I recognized the voice instantly. "Nicole." "Yes, we need to talk." I did not ask what for. "No." "Silence, please," she insisted. "Just a few minutes." I thought about hanging up. In fact, I was about to do it. But there was something in her tone. Regret, it was urgency. And that made me stay. "Talk." She took a deep breath. "I think I made a mistake." I did not answer. "I went to see him," she continued. "And it was not what I expected." I remained silent. "He has not changed as much as he claims." It was uncomfortable, weird. I realized that I do not want that. I leaned against the wall. "And what then?" She hesitated. "I want to come back." That is when I replied. "No." Direct, without beating around the bush. "Listen to me," she said quickly. "I know I messed up, but I needed to understand it. Now I know." "Sure," I replied. "You had to test it out to compare, isn't that right?" "Yes, that is right." There was a longer silence. It did not mean anything. I let out a small, humorless laugh. "That makes it worse." "Why?" "Because then you ruined something real for something that was not even worth it." She did not know what to say. "Eric, please no." Firmer this time. "You already made your decision," I added. "I made mine." Her tone changed from pleading to frustration. Are you exaggerating? No, it was just a mistake. No, I repeated. It was a choice. Silence. You cannot throw everything away over this. It was already thrown away, I replied. Only now it shows. She stayed quiet for a few seconds. You are not perfect. I never said I was. You made mistakes too. Sure. Then why cannot you understand this? I breathed slowly before responding. Because my mistakes never included doubting whether I wanted to be with you. That completely silenced her. I am not going to be an option, I continued. Nor a backup plan while you sort out your doubts. You are not that. I was. Silence again. Heavier. Is there really nothing I can do? I thought for a few seconds. Not because I doubted, but because I wanted to be completely honest. No. I hung up, and this time she did not call back. The following days confirmed that I had made the right decision, not because everything was perfect, but because everything was simpler, clearer, calmer. A couple of weeks later, a mutual friend mentioned something without knowing much about the context. Hey, are you still talking to Nicole? No. Oh, it is just that I saw her a few days ago. She did not look very well. I nodded, without showing much interest. I think she got back with her ex or something like that, he added. That did not surprise me. And it seems they broke up again, he continued. Was there drama? Of course there was. There always is when someone goes back to where things already went wrong. I did not ask anymore. I was not interested because, at that point, it was no longer my story. Months later, I understood something that I did not see as clearly at the time. Relationships do not break the moment someone leaves. They break long before, in the unspoken doubts, in the boundaries that are not respected, in the decisions made in silence. Nicole did not ruin everything in one night. She only made visible what was already happening. And for the first time, I did not try to fix it. I did not try to understand more than necessary. I did not try to stay where there was no longer certainty, and that made all the difference. Today, if someone asked me what I learned from all of that, I would say something simple. You do not need someone to cross a line to know they are not choosing you. Sometimes it is enough for them to doubt, because whoever really wants to be with you does not need to check anything on the outside. Nearly a month passed without any kind of contact, and in that time I understood something I had not considered before. Silence is also an answer. There were no indirect attempts, no messages from other numbers, no accidental coincidences. Nothing. Everything disappeared, and that, far from hurting, ended up confirming that everything that came after her decision was a natural consequence of who she really was. My life began to settle into a more stable rhythm. I went back to working out regularly. I picked up projects I had left halfway done. I even started going out more, not with the intention of meeting someone, but simply to reclaim spaces I had stopped visiting. There was something different about me. It was not pride, it was not resentment. It was a kind of balance I could not remember having in a long time. Until one afternoon, without any prior notice, she showed up again. Not by message, not by call, but in person. It was nearly 7 o'clock in the evening. I was pulling into the gated community after work when the guards signaled me to roll down my window. Hey, Eric, there is someone asking for you. I frowned. Who? The guard hesitated for a second. Your ex. I did not feel an emotional blow. I felt annoyed. She does not have access, I replied. I know, he said. She is outside. She has not tried to come in. She is just waiting. I looked toward the gate, and there she was. Nicole, alone, leaning against the sidewalk, her arms crossed, looking inward as if expecting me to appear at any moment. She did not look dressed up. She did not look confident. She looked worn out. I sighed. Leave her there, I said. I am not going out. The guard nodded. I rolled up the window and moved forward. But I did not get very far. I stopped a few meters later. Not for her, but for me, because I knew that if I did not shut that down completely, sooner or later she would show up again. And I did not want to drag that story out any longer. I backed up. I returned to the entrance. I got out of the car. The guard looked at me, surprised. I am just going to talk, I told him. I walked out through the pedestrian gate. Nicole looked up as soon as she saw me. For a second, she looked relieved, then nervous. Hi. Hi. I did not get too close. I kept my distance. Thank you for coming out, she said. Do not make it long. She nodded. It was obvious she had thought about what she was going to say, but she still struggled with it. I have been thinking a lot, she started. About everything. I did not answer. I know the last time did not end well. No, but I needed to see you. You have seen me. Silence. She took a deep breath. I am not doing well, Eric. That sentence did not trigger what she expected. I did not feel immediate empathy. I felt distance. I am sorry, I replied, but that is none of my business anymore. I know, she said quickly. I did not come to ask you to get back together. That surprised me a little, but I did not show it. Then be clear. She looked straight at me. I came to tell you that you were right. I did not say anything. About him, about everything. She looked down. I fell right back into the same thing, she added. I thought this time would be different. And it was not. Of course not. It lasted less than before, she continued. But it was enough for me to realize. Silence. And why are you telling me this? She looked up again. Why? She hesitated. Because I hurt you. I shook my head slightly. No. She looked confused. You did not hurt me, I corrected. You showed me something right on time. That left her speechless. It is not the same for me. It is. She fell silent. I do not expect you to forgive me, she finally said. I do not need to do that, but I wanted to say it. I nodded. Done. She hesitated. Yes. Well, I knew it was not over. Say what you came to say. She pressed her lips together. I lost something good. I did not answer. And I know that now. Now it is useless. Silence. Did you never think about talking to me again? She asked. No. Immediate response. Not even once. No. That was completely true. Why? I looked right at her. Because when you walked out that door, you had already made a decision. And I do not compete with decisions. A long, uncomfortable silence. You have changed, she said. No. I shook my head slightly. I just stopped ignoring things. That hit her harder than any reproach. I guess, she said in a low voice, that is what I failed to do. I did not answer because it was not my place to teach her anything. I will not bother you anymore, she added. I nodded. Please do not. She stood there a few seconds longer, as if waiting for something, a word, a gesture, something that never came. Finally, she took a step back. Take care. You too. She turned around and started walking. I did not watch her go. It was not necessary because in that moment, I understood something with complete clarity. That story no longer had any weight on me. I got back in the car, drove into the community. The guard looked at me curiously, but did not ask anything. I just nodded at him. I drove up to the house. I went inside, closed the door, and for the first time I did not feel like anything was missing, not even further closure, because it was already done. Over time, the story stopped being important. It became a reference, a learning point, something that made sense when looking at it from a distance. Today, I continue with my life calmer, clearer, more selective, and with a very simple idea that I do not plan to ignore ever again. When someone needs to lose you to understand your worth, they are already too late. A couple of weeks passed after that last encounter. And even though everything seemed completely closed, there was one final episode that ended up putting everything into perspective. Not because I needed it, but because it confirmed, without a shadow of a doubt, that I had gotten out at the right time. It was a Saturday night. I had no plans. I had decided to stay home, order some dinner, and watch a movie without thinking too much. Sometimes the simplest tranquility is the one that holds the most value. Around 10 o'clock, I heard a noise outside. It was not loud, but it was enough to snap me out of what I was doing. At first, I thought it was something normal. A car passing by, someone talking near the entrance, but then I heard another sound. Sharper, more direct, like something hitting metal. I got up. I turned off the television and walked over to the window. From there, I had a partial view of the entrance. I could not see everything, but enough. And then I saw them. Nicole and Jason, together again outside the community. But this time they were not just standing there, they were arguing. You could tell from a distance. Jerky movements. Exaggerated gestures. That tension that is perfectly understood even without hearing the words. I stood watching for a few seconds, not out of curiosity, but because something about the situation was not right. Suddenly, Jason started striking my car. There were loud thuds against the door, then another, and one more. I felt something inside me react, not like before. It was not uncontrolled anger. It was something colder, more direct. I walked out of the house without overthinking it. I walked toward the entrance. The guard was already stepping out of his booth. "Hey," he yelled. "What are you doing?" Jason did not answer. He was agitated. He had clearly been drinking. Nicole was trying to stop him, but not with much conviction. Rather, she seemed trapped in the situation. "Let us go now," she was telling him. But he would not stop. Another hit. "That is when I arrived." "That is enough." My voice was firm, without yelling, but clear. Jason turned his head, saw me, and smiled. That smile was not normal. It was that mix of provocation and lack of control. "Look who came out," he said. "Mr. Perfect." I did not answer. I was not going to play his game. "Leave," I added. Now he laughed. "And if I do not?" Silence. Nicole looked at me. There was something different in her expression. It was not defiance. It was discomfort, even shame. "Jason, let us go," she insisted. "Shut up," he replied without looking at her. That was enough to understand that nothing had changed. Absolutely nothing. "I am going to tell you one more time," I said. "Leave." He took a step toward me. "What?" I did not move. I did not answer right away because there was no need. The guard was already calling security, and Jason knew it. He looked around, assessed the situation, and for the first time, he hesitated. "This is not over," he muttered. "It is over," I replied. "Because you are not coming back." Nicole looked down. Jason let out one last laugh, nervous, uncomfortable, then turned around. "Let us go," he said to her. This time he did not argue. He left without looking at me, without saying anything else. Silence returned. The guard walked over. "Everything okay?" I nodded. I looked at the car. It had several dents. Nothing structural, but visible, ugly, unnecessary. But at that moment, that was the least of it. "I am going to report it," the guard said. "Do it." I stood there a few seconds longer thinking, not about the damage, not about them, but about how obvious everything was now. That night, I did not feel anger. I felt closure. Real closure. Not based on words, not based on conversations, but on facts, on seeing without filters exactly what I had decided to leave behind. The next day, I did what was necessary. I filed a police report for the vandalism, contacted my insurance company, and arranged for the repairs. Everything practical, everything simple, without any emotional baggage, because there was nothing left to process. Over time, that last episode became irrelevant. Not because it was small, but because it no longer had an impact. And that, for me, was the true sign that everything was over. Today, when I look back, I do not remember the relationship with bitterness. I remember it as a very clear lesson. Not everything that comes back deserves a second chance, and not everything that breaks needs to be fixed. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is not intervene, not insist, not stay. Because in the end, the difference is not made by who was right. It is made by who knew how to leave in time. Comment. Hey everyone, I often reflect on how important self-respect is in our relationships. I believe we all deserve to be someone's clear and certain choice, not just an option. Setting healthy boundaries is actually an act of kindness toward ourselves. Choosing your peace over uncertainty is never the wrong decision. True healing begins when we stop looking for closure from the people who create doubt. I hope you always remember your worth and refuse to settle for less than you deserve. Taking responsibility for your own happiness can change everything. Sometimes, walking away with dignity is the most loving thing you can do for yourself. Let's all try to create relationships that bring us calm instead of confusion. Thank you for watching, and I hope this encourages you to protect your heart and choose yourself every day. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.